Hello, my name's Christine, aka Crafti Potential, and I'm a crafter for Tonic Studios, and today I'll be making the Craftwork Castle gift box for you. So in this video I'm going to be showing you how to construct the full castle, and we're doing it out of sandy colours to turn it into a beautiful sand castle as well, which we're going to decorate with a few extra embellishments from a couple of other die sets once we finished it too. But the main basis of this is I've cut everything from a sandy cardstock colour, and then I also splattered the cardstock with a really fine brush. I watered down some ground espresso distress ink and splattered that on really finely, and I also used a fine paintbrush to splatter on some of the Aspen Gold mica mist from Tonic, which is just a beautiful gold mica in a clear solution, and it gives a lovely little sort of speckly effect that kind of gives that illusion of sand. I have also gone and distressed the pieces a little bit as well, because I used the beautiful brickwork embossing folder to emboss some of these panels. I'll show exactly how I did that later on in the video. And then I also used a little bit of the ground espresso distress ink just to add a little bit of extra colour to those panels as well, so therefore I wanted to add it to other areas of the castle too, so it all tied together really nicely. So for this tutorial I have already made 4 of the towers, and I'm going to show you how to make the medium-sized tower to be our 5th one to finish it off, but you can actually make it in multiple different configurations. If you look on the packaging, there's one castle that's got 4 of the tall towers and 1 of the short ones in the middle. You can do 2 of the medium ones, 2 of the tall ones, 1 of the short one in the middle, which is what we're doing for this sand castle. Or I'm sure you could do 4 medium-sized ones and a small one in the middle, or just leave out the small one in the middle as well. Plus, you can also just do 1 tower if you want to, and that looks absolutely beautiful by itself, just having 1 tower, more like a Rapunzel kind of tower. Really, really beautiful. And you can also use them on your cards too, to create flat cards as well. It doesn't just have to be a 3-dimensional castle. So the first thing we want to do for this make is we have cut all of our pieces ready. So for the sort of top roof portion of the turret of the castle, you need 3 of this piece here, and you also need this piece here. But to create this piece, you take this main die cut a hexagon out of the centre, but you still need this hexagon too. This actually becomes the base of the main tower, so it's quite nice to get both pieces from one piece of cardstock. So for the top roof portion of the tower, where you can access the inside and add a gift to each of the towers, you've got these pieces to make that, 3 of these and 1 of this. And then for the actual base portion of the tower, you've got 6 of your side panels. 3 of mine I have cut windows into, and 3 of them I've left plain, and then I'm going to alternate them just to give it a nice sort of different look, having the windows on alternating sides. And then you're going to need that base piece of the central fall away piece from this. When you're pre-folding all of your pieces, these side panels, everything is away from you pretty much, other than 1 fold on this side panel. All of these long glue tabs are folding away from you, but when you get to this top portion of the castle, this one folds towards you, and then this one folds away from you to give you this kind of piece here, which allows that sort of top overhanging portion of the castle to appear when you stick it all together. But everything else is a mountain fold folding away from you. For these decorative panels on mine, I die cut the panels. From the 3 of them, I die cut the windows, then I embossed all of these panels, and then once I'd done that, I recessed the windows back in, just so that you, because it's a sand castle, you kind of want everything to be the same colour. You can definitely leave them just the opening as well. It looked really nice like that too, but I felt like I already had the windows cut, so I might as well put them back in there as well. So the first step of this is to take our glue and stick these 3 around this hexagonal piece with all of the glue tabs on here. So you want to take this side of one of these roof panels and stick it onto one of these glue tabs. Then you want to miss a glue tab and take again this same side of this panel and stick it onto the next glue tab. And then again miss a glue tab, put glue on this one, and again it's the same side of this one, so the one without the glue tab or the one with the glue tab, just whichever, but make sure it's consistent all the way around. And you can manoeuvre that into the perfect position. Now we can leave that to dry while we move on to part of the tower, just to make sure it's really nicely and securely dried into place. And for this one, really simple, we're just going to take the glue tab off the bottom of the side of the tower, and this is the same for any height of tower. All of the construction for each of the towers is exactly the same, it just has a different height to it. And we're just going to add our glue onto the bottom of this and stick these around our hexagonal base, alternating window and no window. So now we've got all of those stuck on. While that is really nicely drying, we can move back to the sort of roof portion. And to sort of bring this into the right kind of shape, we want to bring this bottom of this long-sided triangle around to that glue tab and stick this one into position. Like so. So you can see we're kind of bringing the shape of this around. Then, once you have stuck that one on, we actually want to bring this side in. So we're then really building that kind of hexagonal-based pyramid sort of shape up. Okay. And then once we've got that one into position, we're going back to this bottom glue tab here again. And we're gluing that one into position. If you're having trouble with your glue drying for any reason, you can also leave it at this point, go back to your tower and then come back to this, but this glue is grabbing nice and quickly, so we can actually finish off the rest of this construction now. And I have been doing this next part, gluing all three of the glue tabs at the same time. So you've got one more long one up here. You've got this long one here, which I'm going to make it fold inwards, so it's not going to interfere until we push it into place. And I'm going to put the glue on there. And again, this one down here, I'm pushing that one inwards, so it's not going to interfere until we're ready for it to stick into position. And I'm putting glue on that as well. And then we're literally just going to like fold this like it's a little door. Firstly, focusing on this long side of this triangle here to get it to be in the correct position. Just lining up the cut side of one panel to the fold line of the other. And you can see, even though these two pieces have already got the glue on, they're not interfering with anything because they're not pressed into the right position yet. So now we can push from the outside this tab down and then press from the inside to get that glue tab to stick up inside the turret roof as well. And then finally press the glue tab on the inside here too. And there we have the roof portion of our turret of our castle. And we're also going to add a flag to this as well. So once all of the glue is really dried on this, we're going to use hot glue to attach our flag into the top of our turret as well. But while that is really drying, we can come back to the main portion of the castle. And first of all I'm going to do is add glue along all of these long glue tabs here and get all of the sides of the castle built up. So I'll do the first one with you, and then I'll speed up the rest. But we're literally just putting glue on the long glue tab, folding this in and pressing it nice and firmly. And this is the same for any length tower that you are building. The construction process is exactly the same. And then when we get to the last side, we can do our same trick again of really folding in that one side panel and adding our glue to it. And then also adding our glue to this glue tab as well. And then when we put this in, we're only focusing on this glue tab. This one is folded right back round, so it's not going to stick to anything until we push it round. So we can actually get this side into position, press from the inside. If your hands are too big to get on the inside, a glide folder is really good for pressing that down as well. And then you can bring that final side into position, and you can see down there that the glue tab is not touching the side yet, but we can press that into place to get that to stick really nicely. And again, glide folder is fantastic for pressing from the inside to get a really good bond. So once we've got all of those longer sides joined together, we can start working on the top of the castle. So I have been sticking or adding glue to the 2 glue tabs there, and then taking this top piece of this turret here and lining it up here first. So ignore this glue tab to begin with and work on getting this nice and level first. I think it's much easier to do it that way, and you can pinch it really tightly and remove any excess glue, and once that is in the perfect position, you can press the other glue tab down firmly to get that stuck down nicely as well. And I found that that is the easiest way. So pull this panel out to reveal those 2 glue tabs there, add your glue, and we're lining up the top of the castle to make sure that that is nicely in line, and also this horizontal line going around as well. And pull this one out, and I'll carry on. And then for the final one, we can pull this one out to reveal those 2 glue tabs, but then tuck these 2 glue tabs right in, add our glue to those as well, and then they won't interfere when we're sticking these first ones together. And then we can pull this one into position. Okay, and there we have the tower for our castle. So that's one of our front towers. We're doing 2 taller towers at the back, 2 shorter towers at the front, and then the smallest tower right in the centre. And you can place your lid directly in here as well. And we are going to add this flag, but I think actually we'll wait until we've got the main central portion of the castle built first, because we're also going to add the towers on with hot glue. So we might as well just have our hot glue heating up at the same time, but we are going to put that flag in the top of that tower. So for the main central section of the castle, we're going to need 3 of this piece here, and we're also going to need this die, because we're going to have to cut into this piece a couple of times to create our opening. I've also created a decorative panel for this as well, but I'm not sure how this is going to work yet, so I'll tell you how I created that when we get to it to see if it actually works. We're also going to need the back wall of our castle, which I've done in the exact same way as I did for the sides of the towers. We're going to need the front of our castle, and you've also got a decorative layer that you can put on here as well. So I'm going to demonstrate how I did this brick design on this piece to show you as well. And then for the rest of the sides of the castle, you're going to need 2 of these pieces and 4 of these pieces here. So you can see I've done a different decoration style on these pieces because I wanted to show you options of how you can decorate and add a brick pattern. Obviously the easiest way is to use the dies and die cut a panel and stick that on, or you can use the plain panels and emboss them like I'm going to show you with this. And we have the beautiful brick embossing folder that comes with the castle. And we're going to actually emboss that to show that. But if you want to do it really simply, you can actually take one of the side panels of the castle. This is the one that's supposed to be on the back of the castle, which is a nice big piece, and you can use it as a stencil. So for these other 2 side pieces, and what I did for this one originally, all I did was take that same ground espresso ink, which is the one that I had watered down and splattered to create the sandy kind of effect, and I'm just going to use one of the Nuvo Precision brushes to ink through to give a subtle brick pattern, whether you want it to be an overall brick pattern or whether you want to do something a little bit more patchy and going from light and dark as well. You can do whatever you like to create your beautiful brick design on your side panels. Like so. So that is a very simple way of adding a beautiful brick pattern, or you can take your embossing folder and add your pieces to your embossing folder. Now you can see here I'm just doing one piece, but when I did the sides of the castle I lined up 4 panels next to each other and could run it through at the same time, and also with the, I think it was the medium and the short together, you can actually fit them above and below on the embossing folder too. So make use of all the space on your embossing folder to be able to get this you know, make the most of running it through your machine. So let me move everything out of the way, and we're going to get the tangerine in to emboss this. And when you're using one of Tonic's embossing folders in your Tonic tangerine, you want to use your green plate and your pink plate. And then you'll get the perfect embossed impression onto your piece. And then simply to highlight the brickwork on this, just to pick it out a little bit more, you can see it adds a little bit to it. It's not too much of an extra detail, but it just adds a little bit of extra to it. You just want to take one of your blending daubers with a sponge on, and you can go around the edges to add a little bit of extra inking around the edges. I had already done that on this panel, but we can add a little bit more around the edges, and then you don't have to do it all over, but just going in a couple of areas just to bring in a little bit of that dark colour onto some of the bricks, and it just gives a lovely effect to it. So now we've got that piece done, we want to attach this onto our front door panel of our castle. And I have already, again, the same ink blending tool, inked a bit of that ink down here to kind of give the illusion that if this was made of sand, that someone has like carved a doorway into it as well. So if we deepen the colour of this part, it kind of makes it look like it goes into the castle. You could actually cut a hole in there if you wanted it to actually be accessible through the front as well. Perhaps if you were making it for a child to play with, you could actually have it open. But that is how I did the sort of 2 different variations of brick patterns for this castle. And to attach this on, this is quite a deep embossing folder, so just make sure when you're sticking this on that you're not just putting glue in the debossed areas. You want it to be on some of the embossed areas too, so that it will catch to your card and actually glue down nicely. And you can just deliberately put some dots on those raised up areas as well to help it stick nicely. And then we can put this into position. It has changed shape a little bit because of embossing it, but it still fits on really nicely to add our beautiful brick pattern. There we go. Then, for building the first sort of main base of the castle, we're going to start with one of these pieces, and we're going to arrange this in this direction so that the front of our castle is on one side, the back of our castle is the opposite side. These 2 pieces with glue tabs are these 2 sides, and then those 4 smaller rectangles are these sides of the castle. So first of all we want to do is use the glue tabs from that main base to attach all of these to that piece. Okay, so now we've got our main base portion with everything stuck to that bottom base. We can now leave that to dry whilst we die cut the last little bits and pieces that we need to create the lid portion of this main central section of the castle. So technically this whole castle actually has 6 gift areas that you can add your different gifts to, which is really nice. So To create this portion of the lid, we're using those final two pieces, and we're actually going to cut this piece from both of them and discard the outside edge of one of them, because we mainly just need this second panel to make our lid nice and strong. So there is a score line on this die. It has cutting lines, yeah, there you go. It's the score line along this side, and the rest of them are cutting lines. So you want the score line obviously to be along one of these long edges, but whichever one, if you had a specific patterned paper on here, or something that would determine which way up you wanted it to be, you'd want to make sure that the score line is at the back of where you want it to open. So if you have anything that requires you to think about that, then just make note of that. But if not, we can just die cut this directly into this panel. And we're also going to do it for a second one as well. So I'll bring the tangerine in again. And we can die cut all of these. So now when we take this off, we'll actually have our die cut aperture, but it's still attached because it has got that score line in there as well. So that is the opening for our box. So technically this piece, you wouldn't have had to have cut into this shape already. We could have just used an extra piece of this shape rather than having to have this panel already done, because we're just literally going to take that piece out of here to use. So now we've got these two pieces done, we can take our long bladed pair of scissors and snip this panel out. So technically, if you wanted to make another castle that just had an open hole in the centre, you could utilise this piece if you had cut it in this way as well. But we can save that for later if we want to do another castle. And this piece we actually want to stick back to back onto here to make this a nice strong lid portion. So we're just going to take some of our Nouveau Deluxe adhesive, add it to the back here, and then stick this one into position. There we go. And then this will actually fit in the top of our middle of our castle using these glue tabs. Once we have built the sides up of that, we can stick this in like so. But also for this piece, we want to actually make it so this is not going to fall back through. Because this is the same size as the aperture there, we actually want to just make this a little bit stronger, or give it something to stick onto rather than just falling straight through that gap. So we're going to take two of these tiny little circles, and we're going to place one on one side, just halfway overlapping that piece there, and then one on the other side as well. And that's going to stop that piece from slipping through. Plus, we have got this decorative piece that I had previously cut as well, and I think that will work nicely to add on to there. And the way I created that brick piece is I took this die that we have just been using to cut that aperture, and I drew around it onto my piece of card and cut it out with my scissors, and then embossed it with my embossing folder. And that's how I got that panel to be the perfect size to go on top of here. And when I stuck it on, I just made sure that it doesn't go over that fold line there, so that it still opens really nicely to allow access to that inside portion of the castle. So now this piece is really nice and dry, we can start to build this by adding our glue onto these long glue panels, and then just bringing the sides up together to create our main castle shape that all of our towers are going to attach to. And then when you get to the last panel, if you make sure it's one of these rectangles, it makes it much easier because both of the glue tabs are already attached to the main portion. So you can just add your adhesive to these and then bring these sides up. And you can use little pegs wherever you want to just make sure that that is going to stay nice and close together and dry really nicely. And you can just press those nice and tightly together and then finish with a final little peg. So we can really see the castle coming together now. Okay, so now this has had time to dry, we can remove all of these pegs. And this gift box in itself is a really decent size. It's a really lovely sized gift box, and this is only the central section. You're still going to have the 4 towers and the small tower on the top to put gifts in as well. When you're placing this lid in here, you want the opening to be at the front where the door is, so that it opens backwards. Otherwise the tower that's stuck onto here is going to flip and interfere with the front door of the castle, so you want it to flip backwards. And you can dry fit this in to see how this is going to sit in nicely. And I'm guessing you can move it to whatever height you like. You can go right up to the top of the box, which I think is what I'm going to do. So right up to the top. But I do think I'm going to make it a little bit easier on myself by using some red liner tape. So I'm just going to take some 3mm red liner tape and I'm going to stick it all the way around on all of the glue tabs. Like so. And then I'm going to do what we like to do and get one piece stuck in first so that we can get a really firm bond on that first piece. So I'm going to go to the back of the panel and then we're going to stick this one into the back of the castle. Now if we want this lid to line right up with the top of the castle, we're going for the flat top here, not the little turret pieces. So we want to go just underneath those to stick this in. So we can get that in the perfect position and press that really firmly to get a really good bond with that first piece of tape on here. And then the easiest way to do this kind of piece and sticking it in is to fold all of those tabs inwards so you can see them more on the inside and remove all of the red liner tape off of them. Now because we folded these glue tabs slightly inwards, they shouldn't interfere when we go to stick this tab in. They're not going to touch the sides of the box yet until we're ready. So you want to open the lid so you can get to the inside, and then you want to bring this panel down, and again we're lining up, we want this edge to be flush, so we're lining up where this side meets this front panel. So that's how we're lining this interior piece. And then press that firmly into position, and you can see that none of these panels or none of those glue tabs are sticking yet. So now we can bring this one in and line it up just below those little turrets and press it into place from the inside. Do the same on the other side. And then finally we just got those diagonal ones, and we can just press those glue tabs into position from the inside of the box. And now we've got all of that ready and stuck together, we can turn on our hot glue gun and get ready for assembling the castle. While we're waiting for our glue gun to heat up, we can bring in that final lid of the tower that we made earlier. I'm just going to bring in like a piercing mat. I'm going to get my pokey tool, I'm going to hold it upside down so the point is into the mat, and then I'm just going to make a hole right in that centre, right at the top, so it comes out in the perfect central point. And then I'm going to thread the flag through, and I've put 2 of them back to back. You get both handedness of them, so you can actually put them back to back, which is really lovely. And then I'm just going to thread it in. So you can see a tiny end bit there. When the glue gun is heated up, we're just going to put a blob of glue there to hold it into position, like I have on all of the others as well. But while we're waiting for that, we can do a dry run of what our castle is going to look like. So we've got the main front portion of our castle. We're going to have the small tower on top. We're going to have the two shorter towers at the front. I'm just going to remove all of their lids because it's a little bit easier to work with them. So we're going to have the two shorter towers at the front, and I'm going to position them so there's a window looking out of the front. And then we're going to have the two taller towers at the back. But don't forget, this could all be shorter towers, it could all be taller towers, and you don't have to have the one in the middle, however you want to build your castle. And we can decide, do we want the window facing the same way, or do we want a window looking into the main port? You can't even really see what I'm showing you there, but move that one off. Do we want the window on that diagonal edge, or do we want the window looking out this way? I think I like it on the diagonal edge actually for those long back towers. I think I'm going to do it like that for those ones, and then these ones, oh, they're also stuck to it. Oh, that's alright then. That's not going to work for the front then, is it? Maybe the front should go like that, otherwise we're partly covering those windows. So the front two, we're going to stick brick to these panels, and the back two, we're going to stick the ones with the windows. So now our glue gun has heated up, we can put a nice dollop of glue around the end of that little flag on the inside of our castle, or the top portion of our castle lid, and you want to make sure it's straight whilst it's drying as well. I was actually originally leaving them to dry in the castle. If you put them upside down in there, you can actually just leave them to dry nicely when I did the first few. So I will do that again, and we'll work on the main 4 towers first. So for this first one, if I'm eyeballing it from the side, I can see that we want to put glue up to about here. So I'm just going to squeeze out some glue all the way down, and then I'm just going to press that onto the side of the castle. And what we can also do is open it and press firmly from the inside of the tower and the inside of the castle to make sure you get a really good bond. And actually you could also omit the embossed brick panel other than that top section on there as well, if you wanted an even better bond of not just the brick portion sticking to the main keep as well. So that is the first tower on. Then we're just sort of looking from the side, if I can kind of show you, when this is standing next to it, you're sort of looking from the side to see which brick does that come up to, so you sort of know where to put your hot glue up to. And then you can just do a nice little wiggle of hot glue all the way down. Not too much, but you want enough that you're going to get a nice strong bond. And then press that against that side of the castle. Lift that out and press firmly from the inside of both of them. Oops. So we've got our front 2 turrets on our castle now. And then we can do the back 2, and again we wanted the windows facing this time, so it comes up to just below the window, so we can add our hot glue all the way down this section. And place that into position. And again, press from the inside and from the inside of the tower. If you can't get your hand down there, then the glide folder is brilliant as well. So we've now got the 3rd tower, and then we can add our final 4th tower, or final for the main body of the castle. Okay, and and this one go on there. Again, press from the inside and press from the inside with your glide folder to get a good bond on there. So we've now got our main castle with our 4 towers on there, but we also want, that has dried now, we also want our central tower on the castle too. Now because this is sitting on that lid, we have reinforced that lid with that little tab so it's not going to fall through, but we don't want to add an excessive amount of glue onto there. We just want to add enough so that it sits on there nicely and is held into position. So we can just sort of go around the perimeter and then a wiggle across the middle, and that should be enough. We don't need to add too much. And then just position that. And there we can open the lid and press from the inside of the lid as well, and then that will open really nicely and not into, well, it hits the towers a tiny bit, but it doesn't interfere with this front portion. You can see now why you can't have it opening frontwards, because it would hit this door. And there we have our sort of main castle, and we've finished with the hot glue gun now. We can turn that off, and we can bring in the lids of our turrets to see our sand castle come together. So in the lids of these turrets, they have all got their flag in there, and I've done a green, this is flourishing green satin mirror card, and I've put a little red fish on there. It's kind of looking like almost like a stylised Welsh flag, but with a fish rather than a dragon on it. That's what I was kind of going for as a funny idea, because Tonic is based in Wales. And we can put this one in, and this one, and then the final one I need to add the little fish onto here. And there we go, we've got our final little fish on the flag, and that last lid can go in the turret. Look at that for a cool sand castle, really really lovely, and you've got so many places to put treats and gifts inside here. But for some even more decoration, I have cut a bunch of different shells and things from a couple of older Tonic die sets and like kits and things like that that had beautiful seashells in. I just cut a bunch of different ones, little starfish and little shells, and also this tiny little crab. I thought that would go really nicely to have a couple of little crabs sort of sieging the castle as well. So let's take all of those off again so that they're not falling out when we're tipping the castle up. And then we could prop this up. We can add a few of these little decorations on here just with a little bit of glue. So I've got a few going around the door there. Perhaps some of these skinny starfish could be like extra decoration on the front, because considering we moved those windows from being at the front, perhaps a little starfish would look nice there. Maybe some smaller starfish on the front as well. I think just one like that, and possibly some on the roof panels as well, or the little roof portions, because I feel like that is where you would want to decorate a sand castle. Okay, so I think maybe a gorgeous little shell just there. Maybe one of these shells over here. Some little starfish. Maybe half one of these bigger starfish. There we go, just a few little extra decorations to make it look really fun and seasidey. So, I hope you've enjoyed this construction style video showing you how to create the Craftwork Castle gift box from Tonic, but turning it into a sand castle. So, thanks so much for watching. Bye!